What evil lurks in the dark? A question we have all asked ourselves many times. Together, we can start uncovering the truth and mystery behind the darker side of the otherworldly. And now your host of See You in the Dark, Michelle Roos.
Good evening to everyone. Thank you again for joining me tonight for another episode of See You in the Dark. Tonight, I actually have a very special guest. It's been so busy, travels around, a lot of it with, of course, the paranormal and different things. But, he started his career in 1982 performing fight scenes with Chuck Norris on a film called Lone Wolf McQuade, and then has had more than 75 credits to his name. Now, he has done different stunt doubles and for Daniel Baldwin, Oliver Platt, Noth, and many horror icons, including Kane Hodder. Now, if you know anything about this gentleman, when I bring him on, you think about horror flicks, stunts, everything like that. But he's actually written books and has traveled to do paranormal investigations. So before I sit and want to read this big bio, because that would be the show, I want to bring on my special guest tonight, Mr. Rick McCallum.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Anytime.
Your bio just keeps going and going, and a lot of people, especially in the paranormal field, they kind of all know who you are and, some of the things that you've done in the paranormal field. But I don't think they realize that you've even, been across the pond to do a lot of that.
Well, I have been to England, Ireland, and Scotland. I've been to Scotland 13 times. I'm actually a member of Scottish Paranormal. And I've been to Scotland so many times, I think they're tired of looking at me.
They're going to start charging their taxes on you, right? So just to kind of give people an idea, like we said, you started your stunt career back in 1982. Love the 80s. Kind of how did that get started for you? Was this something that you have always dreamed of doing, or was this just something you kind of fell into?
Oh, I like that. I kind of fell into it. That kind of works, doesn't it?
It definitely does, doesn't it?
I'll just go with that. I fell into it. No, I always wanted to do it ever since I was a little kid watching the cowboy movies. And finally, I went to college, graduated. I had a degree in criminal justice, went out and did an internship as a detective and found out I absolutely hated the job. There were rotten people with real guns and real bullets and bad hours and no money. So trying to use the benefit of my college education, I went, well, there's another profession that has talented, pretty people, fake guns, and they pay you a lot more money. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. So that's I went off and just started annoying people until they hired me.
Oh, nice. What was your first movie that you ever did?
Lone Wolf McQuade.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And it was funny, too, because I also met my best friend, Kane Hodder, who plays Jason in the Friday the 13th. And he also is my ghost hunting partner from Hollywood Ghost Hunters.
Yeah, and I've seen that. And now there's been something going around Facebook about trying to win to go ghost hunting with Kane Hodder and you. Is that a real thing, or was that a scam going around Facebook?
No, I think that's true, but it's just Kane. It's not Kane and I.
Okay. Yeah, because I've been seeing that, and I'm like, wow, this would be kind of cool. But then it'd be my luck. I'd click it, and it was some kind of scam, and then that would be that, right?
Yeah. 25 payments on a refrigerator. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, right. So, you were in the movies, you've done the stunts, you got to do all that crazy fun stuff and everything like that. At what point did it just come to you of like, I'm really going to go into this paranormal? Was it something that happened to you, or was it just like, oh, my next chapter, I'm going to do it?
No, it happened to me when I was 13. Um, my grandfather, my mom and I lived in Chicago, and we didn't have a lot of money. Let's just put it that way. And my grandfather died in one of those gun cleaning accidents, if you get my drift.
Yes.
Um, and he wanted to be buried in Paducah, Kentucky, so we didn't have a lot of money. So we put him on a train, and we went with the casket on the train to Paducah. And they put the body into the funeral home. And because everything happened so fast, we didn't have a place to stay. We didn't have hardly any money. So we just walked out. It was nighttime. We just started walking to the closest place we could find. And if you were ever looking for a location for a horror movie, this was it. It was a 2-story brownstone building with a flickering neon sign outside in a bad part of town. So we walked in, and my mom asked the guy, she goes, do you have any rooms? He goes, well, I've got one. And she goes, well, how much is it? And it was like next to nothing, which kind of made us pay attention. And he says, and I have to tell you that it's haunted. Now, I was 13, wasn't close to my grandfather, so I was like, woohoo! Let's do this. So we go upstairs, and the best way to describe it, the place looked like a volleyball court. It was rectangular, about 20-some feet wide, and all wood. And on each side of the room was a rolling bed. So my mom and I, we were both tired. I mean, the emotions of everything, all the traveling. So she hit the bed on one side, I hit the bed on the other. And about an hour later, I hear my mother scream, right? So I sit up, and I'm ready to fend off the villains with my little tiny 13-year-old self. And I see her bed just rolling, going really fast across the floor. And she's sitting up, and she looks really startled. And I all of a sudden realize that my bed is sliding real fast, and they collided in the middle. And we just sat there looking right at each other. And finally, my mother goes, well, I think that guy downstairs was right. Right. So my mom was a very smart person. Matter of fact, she had qualified for Mensa. And we were trying everything we could think of. I tried shoving the bed as hard as I could. It went like 3 feet. Both these beds went over 10 feet apiece. We tried rolling a glass, to see if maybe a truck going by had, made a vibration. And there was no dip, and there was nothing that would make the things do that. We couldn't figure anything out. So after that, I was hooked. I mean, it got me hook, line, sinker, everything else you can imagine. And since then, that day, I've been ghost hunting. I've been ghost hunting now. Don't want to tell anybody how old I am, but over 50 years. So, I've been around a bit.
Well, and that's very interesting because, everybody's kind of jumping that bandwagon because everybody wants to be a ghost investigator, of course. And it all started when it was like on TV, when it's cool, and to hear for someone who's been in it a very long time, when we started thinking of like Ed and Lorraine Warren and, the times when a lot of it was like taboo, you didn't talk about it because of different religions going against that realm. So very exciting to know about that, and probably because of the detective side of you wanting answers.
Oh yeah, well that's the part that I love best. I mean, that's the essence of ghost hunting for me. What is this? What's going on here? So that's why I like it so much.
And that's me too. I'm always trying to find the answer of why, and I think it's just human nature. We always want an answer. And when you're doing a paranormal investigations, the answer gives you a little bit. And so you need more and more and more. And, it's crazy how it's an addiction almost,
Yeah.
So, you're doing this and now you're on sets, you do your stunts, you do everything else with a lot of the movies, Were you ever on any sets or during any of your, filming and stuff like that you encountered any type of paranormal?
Yeah, there was one time, and actually I went seeking it out. I was in this one studio. We were filming a horror movie, and the security guard agent gave me clearance to go up, but I'm not allowed to name the studio.
Mm-hmm.
But we went upstairs, me and the makeup girl, and I asked some other guys. They're like, no, 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 we don't want to go. All these macho guys, no. So, so me and the makeup girl go up there. We're on the second floor, getting all kinds of readings from the K2 and responsive readings. Like I would ask a question and it would flash, for an answer. Well, these two guys, one was security guard and one was one of the actors from the show, came up. And I actually have video of it, but they're behind me. You can hear them talking. And the security guard is one of those super manly men. And he's going, I don't believe in no ghosts. I don't care about that. What's that thing you're holding? And I said, well, it's a EMF detector. I said, it'll pick up, different things. It could tell us if there's a spirit around because of the energy. And he goes, oh, I don't believe that. I ain't afraid of nothing. And the girl says, well, we did hear some voices right in front of us. And he goes, what? Right? And right then the K2 meter goes off, all 5 lights. And all you can hear is the two of them running down the stairs behind us. They just took off running. So, but the little makeup girl hung right in there.
Of course, we'll always stick around, and especially with the females, we'll stick around. What was that? What was that?
I really like hunting with females because they have obviously they have a whole different vibration to them. Ghosts pick up on your vibes. So I like ghost hunting with women. I mean, they seem to get a different kind of interaction than I do.
Well, and I've noticed too, when you talk about some of the locations that a lot of us go to, and you look at, the year that, when a lot of the tragic stuff happened, if there were female spirits, they don't really talk to a lot of males because they still are kind of back in that time. And it's really interesting to kind of see how that works, when you're in different places, because there's places I've been, I can get females to come through a lot. And when the males come through, they're pretty snarly, like, how dare you talk to me and things like that. And it's been so interesting to kind of see that happening. Do you run into that kind of stuff too?
Well, to be honest, I've run into just about everything at one time or another. Balgony Castle, which I love. I was good friend with the laird of the castle, and Scottish Paranormal is like the in-house ghost hunting group, so I've been there many, many times. But I went over there with the guys who started Ghost Hunters, Jay Bloomkey, Kathleen Burns, and we filmed, we live streamed. Well, no, we had to film it because we couldn't get a live stream out in the middle where that castle was. But there's a guy named David who supposedly had been disfigured, and women shunned him all the time, and he absolutely hated women. And we had this girl Cheryl who was ghost hunting with us, who I knew, and I said, why don't we take Cheryl and put her in the chapel by herself and see what happens. Cheryl is not afraid of anything, so in she goes. And she's not really getting anything. I'm watching from off in the back just in case. And Jay is filming, and finally I just go, I walk in and I sit down, and then Gregor from Scottish Paranormal comes in, and then Mikey, who's another great ghost hunter, he ghost hunts with me a lot. We come in and we start talking, and this spirit, David, starts talking to Cheryl. And there was one thing he said, somebody said, I don't know, it doesn't matter which one of us said it. What would you do with Cheryl if you could spend time with her, right? And two of the people went, did he just say what I thought he said? And they thought sex-wise is what it said, very crudely. And I went, it's not what it said, right? Now, I can't hear worth a damn, but I can hear everything that's whispered. It's like my only superpower, right? And I said, that's not what it says. They said, what? And I said, listen again. It doesn't say bang her, which I'm being nice about it, what it said. I said, it says love her. So they listen again. They go, holy crap, that is what it says. So Cheryl and David started having a talk between them back and forth, which was really cool. And then I finally said, David, you keep running the girl. And he does. He would scare the women. He'd tell them to get out. I mean, it was all kinds of for years. And finally I said, look, David, I know you're probably lonesome. I said, and you keep running all the girls out. Why don't you try being nice to them and getting some friends to talk to? Right? And the voice comes across, goes, I will. So, I mean, it was kind of heartbreaking, but it was kind of like watching Romeo and Juliet come together. So,
yeah.
But that was the thing about where if hadn't been just a woman there, we wouldn't have got anything from him.
No, not at all. Now, have you noticed, like I said, you've been able to travel and you've done it here in the States. Have you noticed that, like, when you're doing your investigations, that it's a little different from going across the pond?
Oh, absolutely. Scotland in particular, of course, Ireland and England are no slouches either.
Yeah.
I've been to the Hellfire Club, Lep Castle. In England, they have a place called the Bolton Priory, which is stupidly haunted. And then there's Scotland, and people always ask me, why do you keep going to Scotland? What's haunted in Scotland? And I go, Scotland.
Yeah, I've been there. It's like anywhere you go. It's
you go
haunted.
to the grocery store. It's haunted.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's why I go there so much. But the major difference is the spirits, and I'm going to use Scotland because, like I say, I've been there 13 times. They're more energetic. They're more accepting to come out and play with you. Here, in the United States, you might get a word or two, or K2 readings, or the REM pod will go off or something. But boy, you get everything when you go in Scotland. I mean, it's just you'll hear voices. I mean, with your own ears. We went to Cool Ross Palace, one of the things from Outlander, and I hadn't been in there for 5 minutes when I saw a guy walk right in front of me. So.
Oh, yeah. So I actually was down in that area, but they were filming at that point. So couldn't actually go into the castle. But we were in Colrose and just walking on the cobblestone street and going to the cemetery that we were going, where they had a lot of the witch trials and stuff.
The top
of the hill. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, as you're walking up, you're already getting that sense. And then we go into that like church thing. And that was the weirdest feeling. And the stuff that I was seeing was like, oh my gosh, it was like mind blowing. And, and then of course, Leonard, who talks about all of that, he was telling us some of the stories, and you could just see all that dread just coming out. It was an amazing experience, but it was one of those that it drained you really quickly. And I noticed I get drained more across the pond with energy than I do here in the States. It's almost like the spirits here in America are just a little bit slower and don't really want to be messed with as much as when you go across.
Yeah, well, if you have a chance to get back to Cool Ross, the girl who runs Cool Ross Palace is a good friend of mine, Linda.
Yes, love her. Her. Met her. She is amazing.
Yeah, I was going to say, look her up, but if you know her already, you know how good she is.
Yeah, she's a good friend. And Leonard is her brother. And he's the one that followed all the witch trials and stuff in Scotland. And they just opened a museum. So it's pretty nice. But yeah, she is a beautiful soul. And she has really awakened all that type of stuff over there. So.
Well, she had actually let me and Gregor Stewart and Lee Dunn from Scottish Paranormal and myself, and we got to go up into the toll booth for like an hour and a half.
Oh, nice.
And the one thing I love about Lee Dunn, he's a very well-known psychic. And we've been up there for all four of us ghost hunting, getting a little here, there, but nothing to write home about. And finally, Gregor looks over and he goes, "Lee, are you feeling anything?" And he goes, "No." Right? I said, "Now this is a psychic that I like." He didn't say, "I feel someone manifesting in the corner. I think it's a woman in a white dress." All right, stop.
Yeah.
Just stop. It's the ones I like to show. No. There's another girl I know, Melissa St. Hilaire, who's another psychic that I've worked with, and she's the same way. You feel anything? No, not a thing. Okay, moving on.
Yeah.
So I like the psychics that tell me that.
Yeah. And they're far and in between, right? I mean, because everybody sees the woman in the white dress. I think everybody back in the day died in their long white gowns.
Can't they get a red dress or something?
Yeah, I'm always saying, could it be red or blue? Poor lady's always just in a white, nightgown.
Yeah.
But I thought it was very interesting. And now you also, because if people did want to come and ghost hunt with you, they can actually do that, right? I mean, I heard that you have a trip coming up also that they can actually join you to do this.
Oh yeah, it's a ghost hunt. It's September 1st to the 9th next year in 2025, and it's in Ireland. And I can't tell you how much I'm looking forward to it. It's already got quite a few people signed up, so if anybody's interested, please, go check it out. I'm trying to remember the exact thing here. Let's see.
I think it's Secret Ireland Tours. I think that's where it's at. Yeah. So the crazy thing is you're going from there. I'll be in Ireland September 22nd through the 30th with Secret Island Tours to do a tour there too in Ireland. And I haven't been to Ireland, so I'm pretty excited to see what I get over there. And then kind of working on some other trips because I think we should check out, parts of Germany too, I think at some point.
I would love to go to Germany. I've never been there. I've ghost hunted in Switzerland.
Yeah. Which
was interesting. The scariest thing that I found there was the girl that I was with. It's another story.
Could be ghostly.
Another story completely. But I'm really looking forward to Ireland because I don't know if you're going to get to go to the Hellfire Club in Leap Castle.
I know we're going to Leap Castle, but we have some surprises we're taking some people on, so I can't really say where they decided to do that. But we'll be doing some of those also. Doing a lot of the paranormal, which is going to be really interesting. I'm kind of excited about that piece.
Yeah, me too. I've been to Leap Castle. Leap Castle is really cool. The Hellfire Club, if you get a chance to go there, I had some amazing things happen there. Well, I had like voice-to-voice interaction that people heard over the Frank's box.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I turned around because this was amazing. And I turned around to the two people with me. I said, "This has got to be the most amazing piece of audio we'll ever get." And they look at me and they go, "Oh, we're not taping." I'm like, There's going to be two more. There's going to be two more ghosts in here in just a second.
Yeah, but it almost happens that way because I know that I would if I have a recorder or I have something going on, I get nothing. That first time I forget to turn that recorder on and do things, it's like it's so active, and you're like, oh my gosh, I think I got this, and you look and you're like, are you kidding me right now? So.
Yeah. Well, I used to say all the time, if you really want to see ghosts, turn your equipment off.
Yep.
As soon as you turn stuff off, things will start popping up.
Mm-hmm.
I did get something for my next coming ghost hunts. My friend Mikey Thompson had one. He actually has the video camera that you can just, it's like a finger almost.
Wow.
You can put it on and it'll keep taping so you don't. I've missed so many great things. I mean, I'd be world famous if I had everything that ever happened on film. I mean, because some of them just beyond belief. Fortunately, I have been able to write a couple books that were pretty well received. The first one won the Paranormal Book of the Year award, so I was pretty proud of that. But here's something really strange. You talk about different things. There's a town next to Roslyn, Roslyn Chapel and all that stuff,
Yeah.
called Temple. And it's called Temple because there was actually a Knights Templar temple and a meeting place, but it was where they all came together. And myself, Gregor Stewart, Ryan O'Neill. Now, Ryan O'Neill is the one that's on Haunted Scotland with Chris Fleming.
Okay.
Yeah, he's the tech guy. Well, we went into Temple, and we're there by ourselves, just the three of us. And finally, at the end, I just had a feeling that I'd been there before, overwhelming, and so did the other two guys. So I asked the question, I said, has any of us guys been here in another life in the past? And we got an answer, which was really weird because it was in French.
Oh.
Now, what's funny is a lot of people don't realize that a lot of the Templars came from France.
Mm-hmm.
And when I said, have any of the three of us been here, it went, deux, trois, which is 1, 2, 3 in French.
Oh, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, and that, and even when we investigate here, we talk about that where, you have a narrative which, they're like, okay, this is the history of this building. And a lot of investigators get kind of put in that hole and they think anything they get or hear, it can't be true because we're in here. This is the only history they know, not realizing spirits came from other places and stuff. So we've gotten different languages too. I mean, I seen like you've been to the Conjuring house.
Yeah, that plays something. I haven't been there. I was actually on the video ghost hunt that they had.
Okay. Well, I was there and we were down in this the basement area and we were doing sessions and we had somebody in, in like an Estes method. And then we're away asking questions and we kept hearing her trying to speak a different language. And we were like, are you doing okay? Now, you got half your group that's like, oh my God, it's demonic, because it's the Conjuring house. Well, then she goes, I almost feel like it's Japanese. And people were like, well, it can't be Japanese. We're at the Conjuring house. But we, for some reason, had some strange lady. I mean, she was a guest, not strange, but it was strange. She actually spoke Japanese because she had lived in Japan for a while. And she was asking questions in Japanese, and it was answering through Estes there at the Conjuring house. And people were just blown away by that. It's crazy.
It is pretty cool. Well, my group, we actually ghost hunted on Ghost Adventures with the guys.
Yeah.
And got some really interesting stuff down in the basement. And about a year later, a group here called and asked if we could come ghost hunt the Pico house with them. Well, Kane was off in a movie, so our RA and I went down there. And when it had been, me and Nick Groff had been down in the basement, and we were getting all kinds of stuff. And one of the things was, I told him, I said, I just heard somebody run up steel stairs at the other end. So we went down there, and they had a board blocking off stuff so you couldn't go back there. We went around the other corner, and there was stairs, but they were cement. And I said, that's not it. It was metal. So when we came back, I told him I was explaining what happened when we were there for Ghost Adventures. And I said, we heard the weirdest thing. The building was locked. The security had gone through it, made sure there was nobody in it before we went in. And the one guy goes, come here. And we go down there, and the board had been moved. And he went down a little bit, and he turned to the right, and there was a set of steel stairs inside there, which I thought was pretty cool because I heard it clear as a bell. But while I was down there, I was trying to interact with the spirits, and I got a lot of stuff from the spirits, and I was getting nothing. So it just dawned on me that this place, there had been a big race riot. It was Chinese, Mexicans, and I say Mexicans because they were from Mexico, and that's what they call them. And the Anglos, right? And they had a big race wire because the Chinese tongue killed the Irish cop, and the Mexican people and the Anglos went after the Chinese. There was 19 people that got killed out in the alley right there by the Pico House. So I'm asking questions and I'm not getting anything. And it finally dawns on me. I turned around and said, does anybody here speak Spanish? And this girl goes, I do. I said, after I ask a question, can you wait like 10 seconds and ask it in Spanish? Bam, it blew up as soon as we started doing it in a language they understood. So that taught me a good lesson.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've had it too. We've had French come across, and one of our team members speaks French. We've had German. I speak German. So it makes it really interesting if you have someone that can actually do some of that, because it like changes, the stuff that you end up getting, because, again, I guess a lot of people think soon as you pass away, no matter what your nationality is, everybody speaks American. So it's just these little things that, I keep finding out, because I'm like, well, if all these people were Spanish, they're not going to understand us. So, you try to get it back into their, their native tongue. So, we've heard Native Americans. I have not found anyone because there's so many different dialects. But if, you would be able to get some of those really lined up, could you imagine some of the stories that would come out of that?
Well, you know what? I have really tried to get some Native Americans signed up for the David Oman House.
Mm-hmm.
Because that was their territory. There was a lot of them, in that area. And we'll get K2 hits, we'll get all kinds of stuff, but we don't get voices. So I kept saying, is there anybody that knows this language? And it turns out that the group that was there was pretty much, it's a dead language now. Nobody speaks it. So
I've heard that for a lot of that. I've heard a lot of the Native American tongue that you get across, that comes across, it is kind of a dead language. It like evolved into something else.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good idea because you knew that it was the Native Americans trying to tell you something and you just couldn't get it. The one that always gets me is you're watching some of these ghost shows and they're like in Transylvania.
Yeah.
And yes, we're hearing it was the 1400s and they start saying, so how are you? And I'm like, you expect them to understand what you just said?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I get to chuckling on that because, again, I look at it this way, I always try to put myself in that situation of like, how did they speak? I got to tell you, I was on one and somebody actually said, what did you think of the Super Bowl? Yeah. And I'm just like, what? I'm like, yeah, they didn't have the Super Bowl back then, but hey, and it went like really quiet because I'm going, I can just see all the spirits sitting around shaking their heads like, what?
Yeah, sometimes people ask questions. You just turn around and look at them and you're like, what? Why do they let you out of the house even?
Well, and the more that we have been doing our events, the more we're trying to tell people, quit thinking of just the bricks and mortar that we're investigating. Think of the land first and what all the other stuff that might have been on here before this was built. Well, so take you back a little further.
I can't tell you how many times I've told people that. People will tell me, they say, well, I know there's spirits here. I see people there and this thing moves and I hear voices and stuff like that. But this place has only been here for like 40 years. And I come and say, how long has the land been here?
Right.
I said there could have been 50 houses here before yours. And the other one that gets me, I hear it all the time when I'm on one of these shows, people will say, have you ever had something with a demon? I said, well, yes, I have. And I hope you never do. And they'll say, well, I think I have a demon in my house. I said, you don't. And they said, how do you know? I said, if you have a demon in your house, you will know very clearly because it will get right in your face.
Yep.
I said, and there will be no doubt what you're up against. So I said, you hear any of these? I think it's a demon. It's not. Trust me.
I've been there, done that. I think what I try to get across a lot too, and I guess people still kind of, I don't know why they are not able to grasp, but You know, if you're dealing with a spirit that was just so nasty in life, their spirit itself will be that dark that it could mimic like a demon, or what you would think would be demon.
Yeah.
But again, you're just dealing with a nasty person. It just followed along with it because there was never anything kind of that spirit that was when it was alive. And that's kind of, when everybody's so busy trying to run and get that EVP, but I don't think they realize when we're really out there, and that would be like you, Rick, when we're looking for the answers, we're giving a voice to the spirits of what's going on, just like your story about the guy and the woman. I mean, there was something that had to be taken care of, to quit making that spirit feel that angry, to start feeling some kind of emotion for that female that was there.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that got me in Scotland, I had found out that during the summer you can stay in St. Andrews University's, in the dorm rooms, like a hotel.
Oh.
And it's right in the heart of everything. And it's like, 1/20th of what the price of everything else is. And it's right in the same spot. So I stay there all the time. And two things that happened. The first one was so cute. There is no TV in the rooms because each person that comes into school brings their own TV. So I went and I got a book to have something to read at night. And I just come in and I'm sitting there and I'm thumbing through the book. And I hear like a shuffling right outside my door. And there's nobody else on my floor. There is one person way at the other end who I never saw. And I hear this shuffling and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Right? So finally I just walk over and I open the door. I don't yank it open, nothing melodramatic. I just open the door. And there's this cute young girl there, maybe 19 or 20. And she looks up at me and I said, hi. And she goes, oh, I'm the, I'm here to clean your room and everything else. And I said, oh, okay. I said, it looks pretty clean though. She goes, well, I've already been here. And I'm like, okay. Right. She goes, and she looks up, big blue eyes, and just batted her eyes at me, not in a loving way, not that.
Yeah.
Kind of, just, she goes, are you the ghost hunter? And I just smiled. I said, I'm one of them, right? And she goes, are there really ghosts? I said, come in. And I took the chair, my bedroom chair, and put it under the door so the door was wide open with the chair holding it open. And I said, here. And I started showing her stuff that I'd seen. And she's like, oh, my God, what about, oh, holy cripes. And then a lady came down. She goes, what's going on? I said, well, I'm showing her ghost hunting pictures. She goes, okay, but she has to go back to work. I said, okay, well, I just wanted to show her some stuff. But that was so cool. And are you the ghost hunter? Well, one of them. But the other thing that got me in there now, this is going to stick with me the rest of my life. The first night I was there, now, like I said, I'm on the third floor. I mean, I've got the most beautiful view of, I can see the North Sea. I can see the beach where they shot Chariots of Fire. I can see the 18th hole of St. Andrews golf course, right? I mean, phenomenal view. So I go in there and I lay down, and I just barely laid down. I've been there for maybe 2 minutes, and I wasn't anywhere near asleep. And like I said, nobody else on my floor. There's no noise, anything else. And I hear a woman scream. And I mean the most blood-curdling scream you've ever heard. And instantly I had a flash in my head that this girl was being murdered and she'd been stabbed in the stomach, and they were just ripping this girl to shreds. I mean, and the screaming and the pain from this sound was terrible. I got up and I pulled my door open, ran down the hallway, looking to try and find where it was to help. Not a person up there, right? So I went down the next day to the room. I said, hey, has anybody ever said anything about, a girl screaming? No, never have. I was like, oh, lucky me. Sometimes things like that happen because you're the only person that might be able to deal with that.
Yeah.
And I have a friend who's an amazing psychic named Heather Besser. And I told her, I said, yeah. She said, I told her about the scream. She goes, yeah. She goes, I've already picked up on that. And I said, really? And she's not full of hooey. She's told me stuff that I forgot, right? And she goes, "You're not very far from the stairway, are you?" And I said, "No." She goes, "That's where they killed her, right in the stairway." So, I mean, it's sometimes you run across some stuff you really didn't want to.
Oh, yeah. I've been there, and it just kind of blows my mind. So, like you said, you've been in this for so long. Is there one place or one thing that really just shook you to the core?
That right there,
That one. Okay.
and the thing that happened at Lupp Castle, which just as we were coming to Lupp Castle, we'd been at the Hellfire Club, and we're going there, and we pull up. We're about an hour too early, so we're out in the front. Have you ever been to Lupp?
I have not. I've not been to Ireland, so all this will be the first for me.
Oh, you'll like it, and you'll really love Sean, the guy that plays the whistle.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he'll play it for you in the morning. I'm sure he will. But because he's a friend of May's. But get down there, and just as we get there, it's really cold and windy and everything else. So we're out on not even on the grounds, we're out on the street in front of it. And it's got all these trees and bushes and everything else. And all the guys run off to the bushes because we've been in the car for a while. And I'm just enjoying the cold and the wind because I grew up in Chicago, and it's like, oh boy, this feels good. And they said, well, get in the car. I said, no, man, I've been in the car for an hour and a half, man, 2 hours. This is cool. I'm going to sit outside. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, this is actually in my book, Ghosts Believe in Me. It's the last story in the book. I felt the best way to describe it is it felt like a spear went through my right eye and out the back of my head. And I could feel it go bam, and I grabbed my eye and staggered. It felt like I got punched by Mike Tyson. I mean, I'm staggered.
Oh, wow.
And I looked down at the ground. Now, I've been a stuntman for 42 years. I know how to fall down, right? So I looked down and I thought, I'm going down. I might as well go down while I can control it. And just as I start to do that, I hear a voice in my head said, if you hit the ground, you'll never get up. So listening to that, I did everything I could not to hit the ground. And I staggered across and grabbed the side of the car, and I'm still about half out of it. And one of the guys, Allie, had seen me stagger in the back, and he jumps out, he runs out, and he grabs me, and he puts me behind the car, and I'm still wobbling. And he goes and he gets me a bottle of water, and I'm standing out there behind the car. And he's got me back there so I don't get run over by traffic. But we'd been out there and hadn't seen a single car, so I think that's probably okay. But I'm still out there, and I'm still wobbling and everything else. And they said, get in the car. I said, no, man, leave me out here in the cold. This might revive me. So I'm still out in the cold. And he says in the book, in my book, if you see anything, there's something really cool, I always let whoever else saw it write their version of what they saw. Because if you're the author, you can write anything you want. I could put down that Farrah Fawcett used to chase me around, and I beat up Godzilla in a fair fight, which neither one are true, obviously. But I always let the other people to say what they saw, right? Because that gives more validity to the story.
Yeah.
So he tells me, he says, the next time he came out, he saw me hanging from the car with one hand. And he said, just chalk white. He says, I knew he was in trouble because he couldn't breathe. He says, so we got him straight up and down, got him into the car. And it was our turn to get back in. And I'm holding my eye still, and water's just gushing out of it. And I'm holding it. And the first thing that came to my mind was that my eyeball exploded, right? Which is very rare, but it happens. And I'm like, oh, shit. Right, so I'm holding it, and we get up to the car, and they all get on. They said, well, let's go inside. Sit down inside. I said, guys, just let me sit here in the car. It's nice and comfortable. Just let me sit here. And as I was sitting there, I mean, the pain was pretty bad. But all of a sudden, I could see out of one eye. And I looked, and my vision started going side to side. And I'm like, well, this isn't good, right? So I'm sitting there, and the next thing it did, it started, the iris where it goes, they used to do it in the old movies and say this is the end. It's like
yes.
The dot, and it gets smaller and vanishes.
Yeah.
It was doing that, and I was like, boy, I hope that's not what I think it is, right?
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, from my neck down, all of my energy went out. Now, you've been on a billion airplanes. You know what it's like when you flush the toilet on an airplane?
Yeah.
That's what my energy did. Boom. Gone. So I'm sitting and got hold of my eye, and I've got no energy, and I don't see anything. Right? And I'm like, I'm dying. Right? There's no doubt. I can feel it down into my soul that I am going to die. And I don't know what it is about me. I just went like this. I said, I've got to see a lot of things nobody else did. I've done so many things I never thought I would. If today's my day, I'm okay with it. Right? And I'm just sitting back there waiting, for my hand to drop, and that's the end of it, play the final music,
Yeah.
And right then I feel like the whole energy go whoosh, back into me. Right? And I'm like, what is going on here? Right? So I opened up my eye, and my vision came back real quick, and I'm like, what the hell? And I took my other hand off, and I could see out of my other eye, and it had stopped watering. And I'm sitting there, and I see a face in the window next to me. And the whole time I was out in the car, the Scottish paranormal guys would come out and they'd peek in the window. And they even said, they went in and asked the laird, they said, how long will it take to get an ambulance out here? And he said, why? They said, we think Rick is going to die. I mean, it was really bad. But then I felt fine. I went in. Half hour later, I was ghost hunting. But the hook to the whole thing is, one of the guys from Scottish Paranormal calls me up. He goes, "You're not going to believe this. We found out one of the castles that we'd stopped at on the way. These two guys had a duel, and one of them got shot through the right eye and died. So, I think what happened was he attached to me and just wanted someone to see what he went through. And I think when I said, today's my day, I'm okay with it. He went, oh no, and backed away, saying that's not right. And terrifying. But you know what everybody says? Would you go back to Love Castle? I said, I am going back to Love Castle. Love Castle had nothing to do with it, right?
Yeah.
I said, besides that, just showed me one thing. I'm not afraid to go to the other side,
Well, and that's just, amazing because we talk about it where people, get attachments and stuff like that. And sometimes it's just spirit really trying to show you, but they don't realize that sometimes it can go a little too far.
Well, that's
And,
exactly
yeah, they're just like, hey, look, check this out, and you're like, you need to move on, get away, get out of me. So, oh my God, that would have been terrifying. But at the same time, the coolest story.
Oh, it is. I mean, and I know that was exactly what was going to happen. I was going to go, that was the end. But I will tell you another quick story because I know we're running out of time here. I told this story to a friend of mine, and he worked in the grocery store. And he just started crying in the middle of the store. He had told me that his dog had just died a couple of days earlier. And I said, can I tell you a story? And he goes, sure. And I said, every once in a while, I get these lucid dreams where you're wide awake. I said, and all of a sudden, everything turned black. And all I could see was a little light at the top. And I was like, holy crap, I think I'm dead. Right?
Yeah.
And I don't think these things. I'm not one of the, I'm dying, blah, blah, blah. No, this was just something I'm like, it's all dark and there's a light at the other end. I've heard about this all my life. I guess I'm supposed to go that way. So I started going that way, and I am scared to death. I'm waiting for something to come up and grab my legs and yank me under. I mean, I'm every bad thing you can think of. I'm thinking of. And as I get closer, it's bigger. The light is bigger. And finally, I'm about 30 yards away from the light. It looks like it's covered with wax paper, but I can see people walking behind it. I'm like, wow. Right? And I'm standing there, and all of a sudden, something hits me in the ass, boom, and knocks me forward about a foot. Right? So I start to turn around, and bam, another one hits me. And I feel it hitting low and down, and all over my legs, bam, bam, one after the other, just knocking me forward. So and I mean, I'm like, what the hell is going on? So finally, I get maybe 10 yards away from the thing, and now the light is real clear, and I can start to see. And I turn around and I look, and it's all the dogs that I'd had in my past life pushing me towards the light. So I told him that, and he busted out crying. I said, "You'll see him again."
Oh my gosh, that is mind blowing.
Well, I had two giant Dobermans, and I had even bigger Great Danes. So when they push you,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
push pretty. They
They
push
would have
pretty.
knocked me all the way through.
But I mean, after that, I mean, how wonderful of a story is that?
Yeah,
And
that is amazing.
you know what I find? It's not only ghost hunting. I think animals, dogs have a real liking for me, and so do babies. And I think they pick up the same kind of energy that the spirits do. And I'll tell you one quick story. In Scotland, I was going back to my hotel, and I'm walking down this back road, all cobblestone, and there were like 6 girls standing there in front of a restaurant. And it was like a tea section, right? And I noticed they're looking at something, and this fox walks around the corner, and he's on this other side of the street, and he's limping a little bit. And I went, "Hey, come on over here." And the fox walks right up to me, right? Stops right at my foot. And I said, "Are you okay?" And I'm looking at him, and he's looking up at me. And I really wanted to reach down and pick him up, but he was limping. And I was afraid if I did that, I was going to hurt him and he would bite me.
Yeah.
And I don't really need wild animals biting me. You never know what they have. But he's just sitting there looking at me, and I said, "You okay?" Right? And he's just he's all chilled out, right? And I said, "Okay, well, I gotta go." And I take a step, and he takes another step closer to me. He's like practically sitting on my foot. And I looked down, and I said, "It'll be okay." And I said, "Hope I see you again." And I walk off. And I go about 10 feet. Now, this is like the classic Hallmark TV show. I go like 10 feet, and I turn around, and I look, and the fox had walked about 10 feet. And I saw him turn around and look at me. Right?
Oh my gosh.
So that was so cool.
That is
That was so
wow.
cool. I walked by, and the girls go like this. They said, "What were you doing?" I said, "Just making friends."
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Rick, I want to thank you so much for joining me tonight. I have so greatly appreciate it. I would love to have you come back and go more in depth. I would love to talk more about your books. I have one of them, loved it, and kind of just, I know a lot of people would enjoy hearing some of those stories. And to all my listeners, thank you for joining us tonight. And as I say always, until I see you again, I will see you in the dark.